The case of Sophie Cunningham. As you are aware, Sophie Cunningham suffered an injury. Now, it's not natural for her to dive down when she sees Sophie's leg stretch as she dies. For Sophie Cunningham, prayers are raised. The blonde bombers, half of them. The season's prize is finished, Sophie. If Sophie Cunningham hadn't tumbled to the ground with what appeared to be a knee injury following a vicious collision, the game would have abruptly stopped, leaving fans stunned. On the sidelines, Caitlin Clark was as stunning. Sophie Cunningham suffered a wound. Sophie Cunningham was obviously in discomfort as she lay down. Pain that is palpable, intense, and persistent. As emotions ran high and concerns of purpose surrounded the play, what was supposed to be another battle on the court quickly became a nightmare for the Fever. This was more than a simple wound. The whole WNBA was rocked by that moment. It appears that Ambria Hartley simply plows through her leg. She sort of slams onto Sophie's knee and holds it like her patella. For Sophie Cunningham, prayers are raised. The blonde bombers, half of them. The season's prize is finished, Sophie. Sophie Cunningham arrived to assist on defense as Bria Hartley drove in, and Hartley crashed right through her leg. Sophie quickly clutches her knee and patella in apparent anguish, giving the impression that the incident was significant. Bria Hartley is on her way. Kelsey Mitchell or Sophie Cunningham descends. It appears that Bria Hartley just plows through her leg as Sophie Cunningham overhelps. It looked like a patella rupture or break, which might keep her out of commission for a year, according to observers. Fans and teammates were taken aback by the incident, particularly since Cunningham had already had several injuries against the same opponent this season. Her patella is being held by Sophie. Her patella is in her hand. Indeed, it appears to be a patella. It is an injury to the patella. When a knee ligament damage occurs, people typically hold their knee higher. It appears that she may have either ruptured or broken her patella. Hartley plunged unnaturally straight into Sophie's outstretched leg as she rolled over defensively. Many people think that this was a purposeful plunge into Cunningham's knee rather than merely an accident. Now it's an unnatural movement for her to dive down when she sees Sophie's leg stretching. She lands squarely on Sophie's knee. It was intentional at that point? All right. Okay, it's intentional at that point. There were concerns about motive because the movement did not match a standard basketball play. Infuriated by Hartley's reputation for foul play, Sophie slumped immediately and was clearly unable to continue. Nobody is claiming that she knew. She was going to do this as she crossed half court. No, but she jumped right into Sophie's knee when she saw the chance. Following what appeared to be a terrible lower leg injury, prayers for Sophie Cunningham flooded in right away. The severity indicated she was done for the season, but onlookers were unable to determine if it was her Achilles or knee. For Sophie Cunningham, prayers are raised. The blonde bombers, half of them. Due to a terrible injury to her lower leg, Sophie the Trophy is out for the season. The Indiana Fever suffered again another crushing defeat. Numerous players have already suffered injuries. It was devastating to watch Sophie go down like that for both colleagues and fans. She will be finished for the year. With these injuries, I'm not sure how long the Indiana Fever can stay in the game. I simply must be truthful. Bria Hartley rolled straight into Sophie Cunningham's leg during the game, sending her down. As emergency personnel hurried in, the show had to break to commercial after revealing Sophie lying on the ground in obvious pain. It appears like she wouldn't want to roll into her leg and get dirty like Bria Hartley did. Sophie Cunningham was obviously in discomfort as she lay down. I have to switch to the commercial. The medical personnel surrounds her. She was obviously very hurt even though she was able to go on her own. A significant void was created for the Fever by her departure for the remainder of the game. She appeared to have left on her own initiative. But for the remainder of the game, it appeared that she was in pain. Played just 10 minutes, and Lexi Hull had to step up at that point. And she took a step forward. Sophie fell hard to the ground as Hartley skidded into her knee, prompting the incident to draw instant attention. To illustrate how terrible the situation was, towels had to be brought out to cover the area. Sophie was in a bad mood when she harmed herself by falling into her knee. To sort of hide the issue, they were forced to pull out towels. Sophie's sister and mother then complained about the league's officiating for not protecting the players. The final victory of the Fever was tarnished by this tragic occasion. Sophie's mother, Paula, and sister Lindsay, both WNBA players, Perhaps you should hire officials who can call consistent games to safeguard your athletes, rather than concentrating on finding players to complain about your bad officiating. Sophie Cunningham's collapse with what looked to be a knee injury ended what should have been one of the Fever's most inspiring comebacks. For a team already beset by health problems during the season, this was just another devastating blow. Seeing one of their main stars in evident pain left fans speechless. What ought to have been a joyous evening was marred by the incident. A squad that seems to be cursed and afflicted by injuries would have suffered a significant blow if Sophie Cunningham hadn't been sidelined with what appears to be a knee issue. However, you must be enthusiastic. Some contended that Bria Hartley's move appeared deliberate, citing her history of dragging players by the hair and being repeatedly expelled. Given Hartley's history as one of the league's roughest players, many supporters were unable to rule out the idea that she had specifically targeted Sophie's knee. They arrived early at Sophie Cunningham. I'm not ruling out that she jumped through her knee, especially because this is Bria Hartley. It's not like Bria Hartley has been evicted several times, given who it is. Angel has been grabbed by the hair by her. And the Connecticut Sun is this. This team has a history of jumping through players' knees. It's not something I'm ruling out. I believe it to be an accident. Suspicions were heightened by the fact that Sophie had previously had 2 injuries against the same Connecticut Sun team. Critics saw this as a recurring trend of careless and hazardous play rather than only an accident. This regular season, Sophie has sustained 2 injuries. The Connecticut Sun has been the opponent of both. Both have opposed this team. Sophie Cunningham has played for the Connecticut Sun 3 times, but this squad has blew out her ankle. If my memory serves me correctly, she has played them 3 times this season. She could also play all 4. In fact, she may have played all 4 of them. Hartley's dive was deemed 1,000% purposeful by commentators, who emphasized that no player ever falls onto an opponent's knee in that manner by accident. Hartley obviously took advantage of the situation once Sophie extended her leg, even though it might not have been planned from half court. This is the play that just took place. Then, it seems like Hartley just kind of slips and collides with her lower leg as she tries to scoot over there. You see her right away. It was simply too much. It was extra. That was deliberate. Can you prove it now? No, you could. You cannot demonstrate that. As viewers remembered her past dirty deeds, such as yanking Angel Reese's hair earlier in the season, the wrath escalated. Many believed that this was an act that went beyond what was considered sportsmanlike, rather than merely a chance encounter. Hartley should receive a full and serious suspension. She is most likely filthy than DJ Carr at this point. It's shocking that she hasn't been suspended for the innumerable dirty plays she has been doing over the past few weeks. The claims that Bria Hartley is a careless and dishonest player were rekindled by Sophie's injuries. Comparisons to other physically fit players in the league who receive less attention showed the displeasure. Bria Hartley is a dirty player, as I mentioned. She is just like DJ Carrington. The Connecticut Sun's stench simply keeps it from receiving as much notice. The injury seemed absurd to Indiana Fever fans, who saw it as a clear case of risky play that had cost them one of their most valuable teammates. Hartley and the Connecticut Sun were the target of the residual resentment. She is careless. The fact that she hurt Sophie Cunningham is absurd. Stephanie White, you really ought to go buy Kelsey Mitchell food every day of the week. She rescued your job tonight, so you should send her a personal masseuse. Inside the arena, shock and rage were the reactions as Sophie stayed on the ground. Hartley rolled straight into her leg, as both fans and experts noted, calling the sequence needless and careless. Play was halted by the injury, necessitating prompt medical intervention. Sophie's obvious pain was noticed by viewers, which only strengthened their suspicions that Hartley had made the motion on purpose rather than by accident. Sophie Cunningham suffered a wound. I don't think I'd want to be a filthy Bria Hartley, rolled up against her leg. Sophie Cunningham was obviously in discomfort as she lay down. Pain that is palpable, intense, and persistent. Following the event, Sophie's mother and sister also voiced their opinions, criticizing the WNBA for its subpar officiating. They demanded that rather than overlooking risky moves, the league concentrate on employing referees who could safeguard players. Hartley was harshly criticized by both, who described her as an angry player who plays cruelly and uncontrollably. Their rage demonstrated how painful and intimate the injury was for Sophie and her loved ones. I believe her sister posted a tweet that I saw. Perhaps you should choose officials who can call a game consistently rather than concentrating on finding players to complain about your bad calling. Keep your athletes safe. Horrible. I'm praying for you. This was Steph White discussing Caitlyn's potential return. Many supporters referred to Sophie's injury as a curse on the Fever, which lingered even in the exhilaration of their recovery. As critics said the officials were not maintaining control over tough games, the play rekindled discussions about refereeing and player safety. It was evident that this injury overshadowed the victory for Indiana. Supporters and commentators were left calling for responsibility for Sophie's on-court mishap. If you were a guard, it would be difficulty no matter what was going on the court. It's not good, and it's problems. I therefore want the best for her. Speed recovery, hopefully. Hopefully, it won't be too serious and she can return this season, as it would be a huge loss to the squad otherwise. However, you have to be happy for a squad that demonstrated the resilience and ability to win a game after falling behind by a significant margin. Many characterized Hartley's fall as just another shady move in Sophie Cunningham's lengthy past, sparking a heated debate over her injury. Sophie had been singled out throughout the season, according to observers, and this most recent event exacerbated her annoyance. For the Fever, who already lacked depth because of numerous injuries, the timing could not be worse. The league's efforts to safeguard its stars were questioned by fans. They were wounded and killed. They recently lost Sophie. Sophie sustained a knee injury during the game, if you watched. According to this, Bria Hartley is always present at murder scenes and extends her fall directly into Sophie Cunningham's leg. The Suns squad has lost control. Was on his way to the basket. In an attempt to gain momentum, she raced straight into Sophie Cunningham's leg and then bumped into Kelsey. I had experienced that previously. It seems like it hurts like hell. In particular, the length of time you spend out will depend on how heavy the individual is. Social media responded quickly and emotionally to Sophie's collapse. Fever supporters attacked Hartley, calling the action careless and premeditated. Analysts contended that Sophie's injury had an impact on the team's morale in addition to the scoreboard. The absence of another outstanding partner at a time when the Fever sorely needed momentum was upsetting to Caitlin Clark's supporters. One of my guys, Sophie, thinks you guys should look into this. I will provide the URL in the description. The interview is excellent. She kind of rambled on. She did an amazing interview. She said something like that. As Caitlin Clark's teammate, I can assure you that I have never witnessed anything like this. I doubt that many individuals have. It's amazing how many people follow her, are completely enamored with her and everything she does, as if it were insane. The uproar that followed Sophie Cunningham's collapse highlighted how risky Hartley's actions seemed. The Fever's frequent aggressiveness was emphasized by fans, who specifically targeted Sophie Cunningham over the season. I won't make too many assumptions about that. Since it was a contact injury, I do think so. Although a non-con injury nevertheless appeared frightening on the scene, it might be better than nothing. The incident was viewed as another instance of the league's unbridled violence. The loss of Sophie for Indiana increased the shock and annoyance of her fans by placing additional pressure on Caitlin Clark upon her return. Nevertheless, the Fever win in an exciting manner, and even an injured Sophie Cunningham celebrates after the fact because it's the kind of victory. However, you see Sophie Cunningham's Kelsey freaking Mitchell. Sydney Colson's Kelsey Mitchell isn't real. From Caitlin Clark, MVP Kels. Sydney Colson said that Bree Turner drove and kicked to Lex for the final 3 points, as well as stepping up and defending like that in the fourth. With a group that no longer included Sophie Cunningham, Stephanie White ended the game. Other players, such as Brianna Turner and Lexi Hall, had to step up because of her absence. Caitlin Clark's eventual return is even more crucial because the injury means losing one of the Fever's most dependable contributors. Fans realized how much of a hole Sophie's absence left, and the team's depth was strained. Odyssey Sims, Aaliyah, Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Bree Hull, and Lexi Turner. That's the 5 that Stephanie White used to end the game, people. Odyssey Sims, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Brianna Turner, and Aaliyah Boston. Sophie Cunningham's injury also rekindled discussions about whether Caitlin Clark should even return this season. Stephanie White remarked, "I have faith in this group. They're going to be the ones to bring it home for us if they bring it home." That was a 5-person group. The Fever lacked depth and had too many injuries, according to analysts, to compete effectively. Even if Lexi Hall hasn't been playing well offensively lately, you want to have a team that includes players like Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Natasha Howard, Leo Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hall. Clark had to decide if it was worth taking a chance on more injuries for a team that was already having trouble. The Fever's roster felt disjointed after Sophie left, placing Caitlin in a challenging situation that startled and alarmed her fans. Given the current state of the team, would Caitlin Clark declare, for the sake of my health, this team isn't winning at all this year? Too many of us are hurt. On this team, our depth is no longer good. Do I want to return and run the chance of getting hurt again? I'm not sure. Many thought the Fever season was in danger after Sophie fell ill. The loss of Caitlin Clark was already devastating. Fans questioned how long the club could last now that Cunningham was out. There were rumors that Indiana could have to think about ending the season completely. The question of whether or when Caitlin would return to the court was made more hazy by Sophie's terrible injury. For Sophie Cunningham, prayers are raised. The Blonde Bombers, half of them. The season's prize is finished, Sophie. She will be finished for the year. With these injuries, I'm not sure how long the Indiana Fever can stay in the game. I simply must be truthful. We probably lose those games without Caitlin Clark. Today, we would have lost. It was over. It was over. You have the option to shut down the set. It was finished. Sophie's wound. It appears like this will be a failure. Sophie Cunningham's injury made Caitlin Clark realize how dangerous it is to return to the court too soon. Commentators were concerned that without Sophie by her side, Clark, who was already dealing with her own setbacks, may be more frequently targeted by physical opponents. The team's inability to keep healthy was reflected in the Fever difficulties. Surprised supporters who were once optimistic about their chances of making the playoffs. Sophie Cunningham is sidelined due to an injury. There is a part of me that fears it's an ACL. Given the current state of the team, would Caitlin Clark declare, for the sake of my health, this team isn't winning at all this year? Too many of us are hurt. On this team, our depth is no longer good. Do I want to return and run the chance of getting hurt again? I'm not sure. The team wasn't the only one shaken by Sophie's injury. Additionally, it made Caitlin Clark's name popular in conversations. Supporters publicly argued about whether Clark should return too soon after a season that seemed to be marred by injury. Many believed that she would now be held to even higher standards, which might be risky if Indiana's health issues persisted. The trauma of losing Sophie brought home just how flimsy the Fever's prospects were. That is worth gold. Therefore, we will never be counted out. That is extremely valuable. God damn you, Kelsey. Why does Kelsey appear so afraid? Oh, put us on your back, she said. Oh, a lot. You are the professional consmate. You are loved by us, thank you. You are enormous. The aftermath of Sophie's breakdown increased awareness of Caitlin Clark's ambiguous comeback. The strain on Caitlin only increased with each loss of a key player for the Fever, according to observers. Sophie's absence left the squad without a key defender and scorer, making Clark's possible return all the more significant. It was startling for supporters to watch one youngster bearing nearly all of Indiana's hopes. Sydney Colson's Kelsey Mitchell isn't real, according to Sophie Cunningham. From Caitlin Clark, MVP Kels. Sydney Colson said that Bree Turner drove and kicked to Lex for the final 3 points, as well as stepping up and defending like that in the fourth. Subsequently, Caitlin Clark displayed her pride by using the heart emoji. That's the kind of victory that, in my opinion, tells you that you must return if you're Caitlin Clark. I